I'm delighted to be here tonight to talk to you about Rahab. I'm not sure how many of us have read about Rahab, done a little review on her, but the more I read about her, the more things I saw, the deeper it seemed. So I've just done a little preview, and I will ask a couple of questions so that we get interactive and discuss some of her qualities that I saw coming out, and then round that up with just a summary of the things that we have gleaned for ourselves. So the scriptures that I will look at tonight that talks about Rahab, the main scripture is going to be in Joshua 2 from verses 1 through 21. And then we'll look briefly at Joshua 6 verses 17 and 23 and 25. Now, if someone could help me to read Joshua 2, the first 10 verses, and then someone from verse 11 to 21, I'd appreciate that.
Okay, I'll read it. And Joshua, the son of Nun, sent out Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, "Go view the land, even Jericho." And they went. And they came into harlot's house, named Rahab, and lodged there. And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, "Behold, there came men in hither tonight of the children of Israel to search out the country." And the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, "Bring forth the men that are come to thee, which are entered into thine house, for they be come to search out all the country." And the woman took the 2 men and hid them, and said thus, "There came men unto me, but I wist not whence they were." And it came to pass about the time of shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that the men went out. Whither the men went, I wot not. Pursue after them quickly, for he shall overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof of the house, and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order upon the roof. And the men pursued after them the way to Jordan unto the fords. And as soon as they which pursue unto them were gone out, they shut the gate. And behold, they were laid down. She came up unto them upon the roof. And she said unto the men, "I know that the Lord hath given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you, when he came out of Egypt, and what he did unto the 2 kings of the Amorites that were on the other side Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom he utterly destroyed. And as soon as we had heard these things, our hearts did melt, neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. For the Lord your God, he's God in heaven above and in earth beneath. Now therefore, I pray you, swear unto me by the Lord, since I have showed your kindness, that you will also show kindness unto my father's house, and give me a true token, and that he will save alive my father and my mother, and my brethren, and my sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. And the men answered her, Our life for yours, if you utter not this our business. And it shall be, when the Lord hath given us the land, that we will deal kindly and truly with thee. Then she let them down by cord through the window, for her house was upon the town wall, and she dwelt upon the wall. And she said unto them, Get you to the mountain, lest the pursuer meet you, and hide yourselves there 3 days, until the pursuer be returned, and afterwards may he go your way. And the men said unto her, We will be blameless of this thine oath, which thou hast made us swear. Behold, when we come upon the land, thou shalt bind this line of scarlet thread in the windows, which thou didst let us down by, and thou shalt bring thy father and thy mother and thy brethren and all thy father's house home unto thee. And it shall be that whoever shall go out of the doors of thy house unto the street, his blood shall be upon his head, and we will be guiltless. And whosoever shall be with thee in the house, his blood shall be upon our head, if any hand be upon him. Verse 20. Yeah. And if thou utter this our business, then we will be quit of thine oath which thou hast made us to swear. And she said, According unto the words, so be it. And she sent them away, and they departed. And she bound the scarlet line into the window. That's verse 21. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So we see here that Rahab is a Canaanite woman living in the city of Jericho. And she lived there around 1400 BC. And it shows us that she heard about the miracles that God has done on behalf of the Jews, and that she believed in what God was doing. And here it is, Jericho has sent these two men to spy out the city. And it would appear as if Rahab is the gatekeeper.
Okay.
They came to her to find out more about the city. You look at it, her house was positioned on this wall. And this is where she would let people enter or leave. And here it is, these two spies sent by Joshua. They stopped and she took them in and she hit them. Sorry. Now, I believe her house was positioned on the city wall as a vantage point where she could see everything. And in reading through this, you see where she did not experience the things that happened to the Jews, but she read of them, she heard of them, and so she knows the power of their God. I even believe that if there was a gazette of Jericho, like how we have the New York Times here, maybe she read that too, so she could keep abreast of things. Because it also mentioned that, no, let me not jump ahead of myself. Okay. So I believe she read everything she could find about the city of Jericho and found hope in what she read about what God had done for the Israelites. Now it says that Jericho represents faith, obedience, and spiritual victory. And that Jericho is also a beacon of hope for those who trust in God. So here we see Rahab. She's putting together the things she has read and heard, and her hope in this God to deliver her from this life she's living, she and her family, that he is able to do what he had done before. Now, I went in and I looked at some of her qualities and made a list of a couple of them, and then I will talk about 5 or so of them. I look at Rahab as a woman who is very resilient. She's a risk taker. She risked her life hiding these men and then lying that they had left. But yet in all of this, she showed courage. Because for her to sit there and covenant with these 2 spies, you saved me and my family, and they agreed with her as long as she followed the instructions and kept the covenant. And then you see where she's also shrewd, and I'll explain these terms as we go. She's prudent, she's hospitable, she's creative, she's intentional, and she's an influencer. Now, in Canaan, the culture of harlotry was not considered shameful. And the position that Rahab has shows me that even though she is called a harlot, a prostitute, there are fine qualities in her. In the time of Rahab, the Israelites look upon women as lower-class citizens. And even as a prostitute, she had no social rank. She was lower than the average woman in that time. But because she showed this leadership by hiding the men and covenanting with them, so that she is seeking in this time deliverance for her family and herself. And the way she has done it, if you look at verse where she went, she put them on the roof and she hid them under stalks of flax. Now, I looked and I asked, why did she have flax on the roof of her house? And it said the flax were laid in order. And when I researched that, it said that flax is where you get linen from. And linen is a very expensive fabric. So it even tells me some more about her, that if she had flax on her roof drying, she was a very creative woman, because she's either going to sell that flax, that linen, or she maybe weave that linen into rich fabric and clothing that she could also sell to maintain her life. And then it also says that when they said, where the men went, I do not know. Pursue them quickly, for you may overtake them. This woman is a very shrewd woman. She's telling them to go, get out of the city. The men have left, and she knows she has them hidden. Why did she hide them? I'm trying to find that out. Yet, she's protecting them. And why is she protecting them? I believe her faith was so strong. She wanted to prove the hand of God in Jericho and the saving of her life and her family's life. Then we look at her as being a resilient woman. She's able to cope and adapt or bounce back when she experiences hardship or trauma. And this shows that even now, today, our level of resilience can grow throughout our lives and change us depending on our experiences. Because we look back in our lives, and at some places, there were different experiences that we didn't enjoy. And we built up a strength. Sometimes we don't even know where that strength came from. But we built up a strength that enabled us to cope and go through. Then we see her as a risk taker. She hid the spies. And then she covenanted with them again, bargained with them to save her family. And we see her creativity. She hid the spies. As I said before, she hid them on the stalks of flax. And if she's positioned on the city wall, to me, and this is the roof of her house, you would have to climb up to the roof to see what she's doing there. So she was truly at a vantage point. She could hide anything up there, and unless you purposely go up there, which it suggested that to get up there, you would have to be in the house. So it just shows how she thinks and works her way through this whole process. Earlier, I said that I believe she is well-read, and she collected her information in such a way like a leader would, even though she had no leadership position in the city. We see where God chose Rahab. She helped the spies by her quick wisdom and clever plans. So she was a planner, and she was a wise woman. She knew how to aid and accomplish the progress of God in Jericho. And through her work in Jericho, we will see how she was listed in the Faith Hall of Fame in Hebrews. I call it the Faith Hall of Fame, where others were listed. We see her listed there in Hebrews 11:31. It says, by faith, the harlot Rahab did not perish with those who did not believe when she received the spies with peace. So she's noted among the men and women of faith for what she did here in Jericho. She acted with bravery and with the mindset, I would say, of a commander. Because that happened so fast. I mean, the spies came, and the spies were being spied upon. How did the people know that the spies turned into her? That's a question I had. But then she acted in bravery in such a way that how she hid them, and, she was able to maneuver well. Okay. We see how she knew and perceived the will of God must take place and executed that in a good fashion. What's happening? Okay, sorry. I heard an echo. So Rahab reminds us that we can take risk for God, no matter how frightening or intimidating things may look. Faith in God and obedience to His word will save us from destruction and give us a future and a hope in the kingdom of God. And we see this in Rahab. Her faith and her action, she didn't just have faith, she took action. And this gave her a space in the lineage of God. You see, she feared God. Even in her broken life, she feared God, and God extended His love and His mercy and His grace to her. We see her story as one of redemption through her obedience and her faith. She went from being a prostitute to become a significant part of the lineage of Jesus. And she's listed as one of the 4 women in the lineage of Jesus. Her actions, I believe, are actions that we can learn so much from. Putting our faith into action. Sometimes we say we have faith, but do we really put our faith in action like we should at all times? And her story also shows that even when you're in a position where you're looked upon as less than, if your trust is in God, you can find your worth. I also see her story as one of reconciliation and redemption. Her faith allowed her to stand strong. And my question would be, what surprised you most in the life of Rahab? Her vision as a visionary woman. And how can the story of Rahab influence you to grow deeper in your love for God?